Hi YouTube family. Today I was thinking about, I don't know how to even start this because I'm not sure that this is consistent with all narcissists. I know two narcissists in particular in my life that I've known them for over 10 years, each of them. And I noticed something common between them that I didn't realize a lot earlier. Something I noticed about the two of them that gets me wondering, because both of them seem to have empathy or sympathy for certain people. And the crazy thing is the people they have sympathy for are the most horrible people you will ever meet. And I'm not quite sure if this is a common theme here, and I want to ask you if you notice this too, if you've come across this with the narcissists that you have known, or still know, I'm not sure. But I'll give you some examples. So one narcissist talks about her brother. Now I understand, you know what, maybe part of this is because it's a family member. I'm not quite sure if this is a common link, but both of them, they have tremendous sympathy and empathy for a certain family member. Now, the first one, I'll go back to that. Her family member is a sibling, and he is horrible. He is just the most despicable, insecure weasel of a person you will ever meet. And I hate to say that about a person, and I don't hate the guy. It's just that I know that throughout his first marriage, he had beat his wife multiple times. His kids had told me that they would have to jump on him to stop them from beating their mother. And he would go into a drunken rage. He was also an alcoholic. And that might be part of the reason why he would go into these rages, but he was extremely jealous of his wife, or because she was pretty and was attractive and men looked at her, you know. Now, I also heard that he cheated on his wife, and he didn't see the wrong with that. And here's the crazy part too. The mother, this person's mother, encouraged him to cheat on his wife because she felt that her son was just too good looking for one woman, even though he was married and had kids with her. So I guess that's part of the making of a narcissist right there. So the narcissist that I know has tremendous empathy for him. Like nobody in the family wants to spend time with him. They try, you know, because they're related to him, his siblings. They want to have a relationship with him. And I don't think they realize or understand narcissism or narcissistic abuse. But this guy is the poster boy for narcissistic abuse. Anyway, so his siblings do try to have a relationship with him. But he always ends up trying to fight them. I mean, even his sisters, he wants to beat them up. And he makes attempts to kick them, or I remember one time with his nephew, he wanted to get into a fight with his nephew over something, and he wanted it to be a drag-out punching, you know, hitting fight out in the yard. And I'm thinking, you're the uncle. You need to take control of yourself. But that's one thing he never had. Okay, so back to the person that I know, who happens to be his sibling, one of his siblings. And the same thing with this sibling. The rest of the family has a very hard time getting along with her as well, because she is an extreme narcissist as well. I mean, she puts out the image of this wonderful, caring, generous person, and everybody loves her, who's not in the family. But people who are in the family, of course, they love her because of obligation, you know, because they feel we're connected by blood. So anyway, she is in constant turmoil with all of her relatives, and she has mellowed out a bit. I understand he supposedly mellowed out a little bit too, but the two of them together are like peas in a pod. I don't even know how else to explain it. They are so much alike, and yet when he does all these horrible things to people, when he tries to beat up his other siblings, and even her son, and he tried to beat up of course, he beat up his own wife, and his own children had to climb on him to stop him from doing this when they were young. The narcissist that feels so much empathy for him won't believe it. She'll even say, or has said, that, well, he only beat his wife one time. And I was like, well, no, that first of all, that's not true. And second of all, one time is enough. I mean, you can't just say only one time. I mean, what a jerk, that he would beat her up. Anyway, so she asked me, well, how do you know that he beat his wife more than once? And I had to explain to her, well, his kids told me. His own kids told me this. And she refused to even acknowledge that. She just brushed it away and said, well, it doesn't matter. I don't believe it. And she would also say that she believed his wife deserved it. And anyway, so now he's married to a second wife, right? And he beats her. I mean, this is insane. With a frying pan, I heard once. And I'm like, what the heck? But then I also learned that this wife is also a horrible gossip, terrible. I don't know. I don't know her. I've never met her. But I just don't think that a person deserves to be beat up with a frying pan by their spouse. I mean, what the heck kind of relationship is this? But my question to you still is, how is it that this narcissist has such huge empathy and sympathy for the other huge narcissist? It doesn't seem like he returns the sympathy or the empathy. He completely uses and abuses the first narcissist, right? Oh my gosh, I can't even go into the financial, how he uses her financially. He sponges off of her. His kids can't even, understand, or they're embarrassed by that. They just feel horrible that he uses his sister, her money, and she gives him sympathy. So I thought that it was maybe an isolated situation where a narcissist has great sympathy for another abuser, right? Someone who is such a blatant abuser. And he was horrible to her. I mean, she knows how horrible he was. The two of them hardly got along for a couple of decades. They were at each other's throats constantly, gossiping about each other, putting each other down, having an all-out, screaming, yelling fights, all the time. And then, I can't even go into all the other details of their relationship, but here she is. She feels tremendous sympathy for him, and she constantly talks about, he's changed, he's a good guy, but he still beats his second wife, and she won't acknowledge that. I mean, I think she knows that it happens, but she won't admit it. Anyway, so the second narcissist I have known for over 10 years, exhibits the same type of empathy for another narcissist in her family. So I'm just thinking, okay, I didn't know that she was a narcissist for many, many years. It's kind of recently come to my attention that she's also a narcissist. And I'm going to do another video on her because, oh my gosh. Anyway, I'll give you another video on her and on a different subject. But on this subject, she has tremendous sympathy and empathy for her son. And this kid, well, he's no longer a kid, he's an adult now, but he was horrible. He had been a manipulator since, I've known them for over 10 years, so I've known him when he was a little kid. Noticed how manipulative he was, and, he would pour guilt onto other little kids who couldn't process that and didn't know that. So he was able to manipulate them to give him things that he wanted from them. So anyway, so essentially he would steal from them and then get away with it. And his mom, in their house, she would let him get away with bullying the other kids, like mercilessly, the younger kids. And then when he got older, he would do drugs, and he's, sleeping around, and he's sneaking out at night and getting caught by the police drinking, underage drinking, and they'd bring him back home, and she'd have to deal with that. I think she had to also, I can't remember, she had to go to jail to help him. I can't remember. But I know that the police had been at her house multiple times because of him. and the criminal things that he'd been getting into, stealing and stuff. So he would, once he moved out of her house, he would, and even before he moved out of her house, he would rob her. He would steal from her. He'd go into her closet and take her designer clothes, designer bags, and sell them. I think it was on Craigslist or something like that. And her friends would call her or text her and say, hey, I just saw your purse on Craigslist. Your son is selling it. And she'd go on, find out. Yes, he did. He sold it. And even her designer clothes, he would sell that. And she's not rich. She would buy these things, or they were, some of them, gifts given to her. And anyway, another time he broke into her house. So once he moved out, he would break into her house and through a window and rob her. He would steal from her and sell her stuff. He pawned her wedding ring. She wasn't married at the time, she was divorced, so she wasn't wearing her ring, but she kept it in her jewelry box. And he came in, stole it, and pawned it. Now, she continually forgives him time after time after time after time. And what I'm wondering is why? Why do these two, I understand forgiveness, but I don't understand how these two are practically, they're embracing the horrible other person. They're affectionate with them. So this empathy pours out of them for these horrible people. This kid also used a bunch of girls. He slept around quite a lot, and younger girls than him. And anyway, I don't even want to get into where he is now with another relationship. I feel very bad for her. It just seems to me that these two narcissists, the two major ones, right, who are having empathy for the secondary narcissists, they have incredible emotional ties to them, and they will not let go. They will not. I don't know that they challenge them. They might, slightly, but I don't think they're a good influence to these people because they don't hold them to any consequences that these two deserve. I'm not saying that you should be hard-hearted and hate them or anything like that. I'm just saying, you got to put your foot down and say, you are no longer welcome if you're going to bully your siblings. You are no longer welcome if you're going to beat your wife. But they're like, oh, come on in. And I'm just thinking, who is going to hold these two accountable? So one of my theories is the reason they are so empathetic with these two secondary narcissists is they have that inside of themselves. They recognize that they're that ugly inside of themselves. And I don't even know how to get into that. But secondly, I think they're empathetic and sympathetic towards these two secondary narcissists because they get supply from them. Those secondary narcissists need them because nobody else is going to be there for them. Nobody else will repeatedly get robbed. Oh, and this happens with the older narcissist, right? With the brother. She, oh my gosh, she has people stealing from her too, coming into her house, robbing her $5,000 one time. And she still is friends with this person who totally stole from her, lied to her, said she didn't take this money. And then finally, when she found out this woman had her money, confronted her, the woman gave it back. And the narcissist was like, oh yeah, we're still friends. I think part of that is because they need supply. They need people who need them. Even though those people are horrible, terrible, disgustingly, just awful people. So this is what I'm wondering. First of all, apparently narcissists can have empathy. They can sympathize. But it's so, I don't know, it kind of makes me sick actually, that they sympathize with the worst people out there. And I can understand caring about people and giving them second chances, but these two don't seem to care about the victims of the people they're sympathetic to or empathetic to. And I say empathy because I really do think that these narcissists have a connection to the horrible people they're sympathetic to. I think that they recognize an emotional and deeper understanding of those horrible people than the rest of us would understand, because I think that the narcissists probably deep down inside are just as dark or just as ugly. And I hate to say that, but I don't know. It's just something that I'm noticing. Second of all, I wonder about, is this a common thing? So first of all, they seem to be able to have sympathy, but they're for the wrong people. Second of all, they is this a common thing? I don't know. And this is the only time really that I've seen them have tremendous sympathy for somebody. They don't seem to sympathize for victims, like true victims of narcissistic abuse, but they are very sympathetic or empathetic towards the narcissist that caused the abuse on other people. And third of all, I want to ask you, is this something that you have noticed as well? Have you come across this in your experience with narcissists? I'm just wondering, because this is just from my own experience, my own observations. So YouTube family, I hope that we'll be able to kind of dig further and find out more. I wish you health, happiness, and wholeness. And if you like this video, please subscribe, please comment or like it below, and share it if you know somebody else who's had similar experience and who would comment, because I really want to know. I want to know what's really going on here. So YouTube family, I hope you have a great day.